and REK Youth of the Year from James T. Anderson Boys and Girls Club here in Atlanta, as well as Willow R., the 2022 Southwest Youth of the Year and BGCA intern. It keeps disappearing on me. All right, joining us here today, joining us remotely today to complete our panel is the multi-talented breakout star, Jacob Lattimore. Jacob stars in the hit Showtime series, The Chi, which is boldly addressing mental health this season.
Okay, guys, we're about to get ready.
All right.
In 10 seconds, okay?
Y'all feeling good, audience? All right, good deal. Thanks y'all for being here.
Live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is London Reeves, and I'm the Senior Director of Team Strategy Execution here at Boys and Girls Club of America. In my role, I am helping to support get over 576,000 teens back into our clubs as team members, and I'm so excited to be closing out an incredible BGC week here with this incredible lineup of panelists. On stage here with me, we have Rachel Calacango Harris, a licensed social worker and director of trauma-informed practice here at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Also, Jada Rogers, the site director here at Boys and Girls Clubs at Promise Southwest Boys and Girls Club, and REK Youth of the Year from James T. Anderson Boys and Girls Club here in Atlanta, as well as Willow R. 2022 Southwest Youth of the Year, who's also serving as a BGCA intern. Joining us today remotely, we have to complete our panel is the star, the man himself, the multi-talented breakout star, Jacob Lattimore. Jacob stars in the hit Showtime series, The Chi, which is boldly addressing mental health this season. His very impressive resume of shows and movies include the following. Ride Along, Black Nativities, Slate, just to name a few, and he's also a musical artist with over 100 million streams. I also want to thank Kohl, who is a longtime partner of Boys and Girls Club, for the generous support that we have here with us today. And so I think that Kohl's also works with the Boys and Girls Club of America to ensure that the club staff have the resources, training, and the tools they need to offer support and, well, opportunities even for today's panel. So let's welcome everybody. Let's make some noise in the audience for those who are here today. And let's dive right in. All right, thanks, y'all. All right, Jacob, thank you for being here. So first and foremost, want to check in on you. How are you feeling?
I'm sorry I couldn't be there, everybody. I was planning to come there this morning. I had a positive COVID test 2 days ago, and I didn't want to get anybody sick. So I was like, can I please, tune in virtually, or can we make this technology work? I know it's always weird, but I'm glad to be here. I'm feeling a little bit better today, hopefully better tomorrow. And yeah, they gave me a week off of work, so I'm just at home locked up right now.
A week off of work sounds like a joy to me. But Jacob, thank you for being here. I'm glad that you are feeling better and certainly hoping for a speedy recovery for you. So Jacob, now that we've checked in on your physical health, to kick things off, I would love for each of the panelists to quickly share what mental health means to them. And Jacob, let's start with you.
Mental health, for me, it's kind of, I would say it's something that's pretty new to me over the past couple years. I think this show, The Chi I've been on, has also helped me be more aware of what I'm maybe going through mentally. As an actor, you spend a lot of time being in someone else's shoes. And I didn't really think about maybe the things I was going through, or maybe some of the pressures I was feeling, being successful in my family, or being the breadwinner, being the person that everybody sort of needs. As I grow into, more and more in adulthood.
Thank you, Jacob. All right, Ari, I'm gonna send the question to you. How about you for yourself? When it comes to mental health, what does it mean to you?
To me, mental health is more of prioritizing myself. It's more of prioritizing myself, putting myself first before everything else that's around me, whether it be socially or in my house or at school. I make sure to prioritize me because I come first before anybody else.
I love that. You definitely have to prioritize yourself there.
Of course.
So, Jada, how about you? When it comes to mental health, how about you?
Well, I've had a long, extensive mental health journey. Mental health runs in my family, mental health issues. So it's something that I have to take responsibility for, just like I do my physical health. I get once a year checkups. I go to the dentist every 6 months. I have to see a therapist to keep my mind in check and to just balance out everything and just to make sure that I'm not the only one supporting me, that I have somebody outside of my family who is there as a system of support to help me navigate through life.
Systems of support are absolutely necessary. So, Willow, I'm going to send that same question to you as well.
Yeah, so mental health is really everything to me. I feel like a lot of time people don't take mental health as serious because it's not something that you can see. But just because it's not something that you can see doesn't mean it's not there or that you have to, make a conscious effort to improve your mental health. Like Jada said, we often call it a mental health journey, and I feel like that speaks so much because it's something, it's never done. You're having to continuously work and put effort into getting your mental health right. But for me, when I think of mental health, I really think of like mindset. I think our mindset is everything. And once you start thinking positive and change your mindset, I think that's when we really start to see a change in our life and our reality starts to change.
Thank you all so much. So, all the youth in our audience here today, they're passionate about mental health, right? And so, for our viewers at home, sitting here next to me with Rachel, as the expert in mental health professional, could you define mental health for us?
Yeah, I think that mental health is simply mind health. I think that mental health refers to our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It's really how we think, act, and feel. It influences how we have relationships, engage with others, manage stress, and make choices in our life. I think mental health is a critical part of overall health, and good mental health is not just the absence of a mental health disorder. It's really about how we manage life, how we manage fulfilling relationships, and really how we prosper through life.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, so some of you touched on this in your answer for when you were describing mental health. So when managing stress and worry, with it being like a challenge for many of today's teens, y'all shared the unique experience that you've dealt with, but how do you personally cope with stress and worry? And even for some, what advice would you give to teens who are facing similar challenges? Jay, can we send it to you?
Yeah, sure. I think stress and worry is an interesting thing. I've been aware, just speaking for myself, I've noticed that I've actually stressed and worried about things that have nothing to do with me. And I think sometimes, I'm just speaking for me personally, I have a big heart. So sometimes I may want to bring people on the ship that doesn't necessarily need to be on my ship. And sometimes we carry too much that God really didn't intend for us to carry. So sometimes it brings stress, it brings worry, and it brings like this lack of trust in our own personal journey. So I think that would be my personal advice from my own experience, is that just reevaluate your circle and reevaluate some of the things that you may be carrying that you may not be needing to carry right now, that can really cause a lot of stress and a lot of worry, and you putting it on yourself that you may not really need to be carrying right now. So that would be my personal advice.
Thank you, Jacob. That's great. We appreciate that. All right, and so I'm going to send it to, let's go to Jada as well. What advice would you give to some teens also?
Well, depression runs in my family, and what I've learned about depression is that my brain naturally doesn't produce the same amount of dopamine levels as other people, so I have to intentionally find dopamine creating activities. So that is things like going to the gym, taking a walk, intentionally surrounding myself with things that I enjoy to do. I love hiking, so making sure that I go and do those things. You have to take charge of your journey, and it's a constant battle to not let it overpower me. So I have to every day wake up, choose myself, and choose to overpower it.
Thank you, Jada. Willow, how about you? What advice would you give as the 2022 Southwest Youth Leader?
Some advice that I would give is really I really focus on mindset a lot. I really think when we start changing our mindset and thinking positive, that's when we start to see change. Something that I've personally started doing is I've started journaling, and that's really helping me, just visualizing my thoughts and my feelings and seeing it. Also, I have recently picked up starting to listening to podcasts and self-help podcasts and things like that. So when I start to have those negative thoughts, I listen to those things and it kind of changes it into a positive light, and that's something that really helps me personally.
Thank you, Willow. Ari, what advice would you give?
I think if I had to give any advice to people like my age, especially coming out of school or about to come out of school, I think like Willow and Jada touched on, getting a hobby, whether it be crocheting, painting something artistic, going on a hike, going to the gym, taking a nap if you really need to. Something to just take your mind off of everything around you so you can just take a step back and really reassess.
That taking a nap part, I think we all can adopt that a bit more often into our daily lives, that's for sure. And Rachel, just for you, what advice would you give even to teens and even those who work with teens with the challenge that they may be facing?
Yeah, I think just first, I just want to normalize that stress and worry is definitely something that is natural to our lifespan. And to whether you're an adult or a teen, we will have moments where we feel more stress, and we'll have more moments where we might worry about things that we typically won't worry about. So just want to normalize that. But I think it's a lot of what everybody shared here today, making sure that you have the coping skills and the coping strategies in place before you have a crisis. So really having that toolbox already ready to go, finding the thing that works. Everybody is an individual and different. And so what may work for me may not work for you, but really leaning into what you like to do, what frees your mind, what centers you. I know for me, it's a lot of what was discussed here, painting, art, getting out into nature can really just help clear your mind. And then that mindfulness and meditation, really putting yourself in a quiet space, grounding yourself also helps.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm thinking through what it's going to be in my toolbox moving forward, because I certainly need to adopt some more practices for my own protection for mental health. All right, now, loneliness and isolation are significant issues teens are navigating today. And so if you feel comfortable, please share a bit of any experiences you have been navigating when it comes to loneliness and isolation, and then how you have been provided support through others with this, and what resources that you might have been using for help. Anybody have any specific examples?
I can go. I know I just recently moved into my first apartment by myself.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I've never had to live alone before, and I realized that I kind of have a very codependent mindset. I feel like a lot of times I need others around me to feel valuable. And I had to ask myself the question, if there's nobody else around, where am I getting my value from? And once I realized I'm in control and I have to take my life into my own hands. And I really started to research and figure out that there's a difference between being alone versus being lonely. And once you start changing your mindset, and that's something that really helped me personally. And I also had to realize that I'm never really alone. We are the embodiment of our ancestors. We embody everybody who we love, and they're always with us. So once I started to look at it in that positive light, I started to view it as solitude and not loneliness.
I love that. It reminds me of that quote. Yes, let's clap that up. Clap it up for Willow, please. It reminds me of that quote, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000 when you brought up your ancestors, so you're not by yourself. Now, before we take it to Jacob, Ari, how about you? Do you have any specific examples that you would like to share, if you're comfortable?
No, I'm comfortable. Specific examples, it's really hard to pick and choose because there's definitely been a lot, especially with that whole quarantine situation. Yes. I think that was really my first time experiencing like true loneliness because we were thrown into, I was in middle school when it first started, so I was used to seeing my friends every day, used to constant routine, and then I was just thrown out of it. I was at home, I started to fall into a little bit of depression because I didn't do anything. I stopped doing my schoolwork for a hot minute and couldn't go to the Boys and Girls Club, couldn't see anybody. It was really just me, myself, and I. And I took that time to really delve into my craft, be creative. I started to paint more, get more in tune with myself to realize, like you said earlier, I was in solitude and I wasn't exactly lonely. I still had people in my corner. I could still pick up the phone, They're only a phone call away. So I definitely have had my struggles, my ups and downs. But I think connecting with myself again has really allowed me to stop feeling lonely.
Thank you, Ari. Now, Jacob, I'm going to send it to you, but we lost sound in the studio, so just want you to double check in case if you're on mute or not on your end. But then also, too, while you're doing that, the question I wanted to ask you, with you currently experiencing isolation, what are some things that you're putting into place so that you're not feeling too lonely today or for the next week or so?
Can you guys hear me clearly? Hear me clearly at all?
All right, Jacob, I may be able to hear you now.
You can hear me? Hello? Hello, hello, hello?
I can hear you, Jacob.
Can you hear me now? You can?
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go, Jacob. It's a bit of a delay
Basically-
in my ear, but I can hear you.
Okay. I'm gonna try to be as clear as possible. For me, isolation has been a key thing for me as I grow in my success. I realized that being successful in whatever you want to do and being on your journey, it can be a lonely road, and it will take some time to yourself, and you will have to maybe set boundaries with people that you love, who won't be able to go on that journey with you. And it's sad, it's heartbreaking, but we must trust God. We must trust God that God will lead us in the right places, in the right rooms, and we will be okay. And it's always turned out to be that way, because you have to go through a little bit of a storm and a little bit of that dark tunnel and that focus to see the light at the end. And we must take that time out to work out, listen to sermons, listen to our own thoughts, meditate, pray, in order to pour into others so we can be our best self. Give me that.
Jacob, that was great. I cannot agree with you more when you think about the journey that you may be having to success, regardless of what level you may or may not be at. It's a journey that you have to definitely set boundaries with. Sometimes those boundaries show up in your friendships, those boundaries show up in your families, those boundaries show up even in your places of employment. And so speaking of that even too, like in this season, Jacob, of The Chi, y'all have been very intentionally addressing mental health issues in the Black community. So how was working on this show, how has it influenced your understanding of these issues, and what messages do you hope to convey to the audience and the viewers who are tuned in?
I hope that everybody just take away, just being more aware of themselves. I actually started therapy a year ago for myself, and it's been incredible for me. I probably do about bi-weekly, like every 2 weeks now, maybe once a month now. But it's definitely helped me sort of tap into what Jacob is going through, because I do spend a lot of time filling the shoes of another character, like an Emmett, where Emmett has a lot going on and I have a lot going on, but I have to make sure that I'm focusing on what I'm stressed out about, what I'm worried about in my personal life. And it is a lot of pressure as a young man. I worry about my finances, I worry about my physical, I worry about my family, I worry about, sometimes I even have survivor's guilt, and I realize that I am that person in my family who has excelled in ways that a lot of people haven't in my family. So it is, I had to kind of let go of that guilt, because I was feeling that pretty heavy. I would say I want to say I let go of it maybe just a couple years ago. So I am finding that freedom and that a little bit of selfishness as I grow into this next phase and next chapter of my life.
Thank you, Jacob. I have to say, you're further along in your journey with therapy than myself. I too, as a Black man, started about 6 months ago. So I want to tip my hat off, if I had on a hat today, to you with that, for sure. And I also want to ask Rachel, like when it comes to like the stigma in the Black community, when it comes to mental health and going to therapy, what would you like to share with the audience and those who are viewing in today as to why maybe perhaps they should consider going to therapy?
Yeah, I think the stigma around mental health is something that we're still just trying to tear down in the behavioral health field. I think conversations like this lend to tearing down that stigma. I think shows like The Chi and what Jacob just shared, when they highlight characters like Emmett, like Keisha, like Victor, it really speaks and humanizes mental health. And so I love that The Chi has kind of focused on really talking about how historical trauma, cultural stigma, and social economic factors affect mental health, especially in the Black and brown communities. And so so I think more and more it begins to lend to people feeling like this is something that I can do. I would always suggest that if you have a lot going on and you cannot process what you're going through alone, a therapist is there to help. And it may be group therapy. A lot of times we always think about individual therapy. That's the first place to go. But sometimes talking in groups, just like we see the healing circle on the Shy, are things that can draw in that space of really dumping out what you're holding in and really feeling vulnerable and safe. And I think more and more that we do that and talk about that, people will see the benefits of really going through and doing what they need to do for their mental health.
Let me ask you a follow-up question there too, Rachel. So when it comes down to the celebrities and public figures, and Jacob, I'm going to bring it back to you as well. What would you say to encourage them to speak more openly about their mental health experiences and why?
Look, we need y'all, point blank. I think what Jacob does is amazing, like some other celebrities and public figures. I think what it does, again, it humanizes mental health that we all go through, that we all have challenges with. I think a lot of times they have the platform where people see them, admire them, and they don't always think that they have these challenges because you see them in the public eye and in a positive way. But we all, when we retreat home, we all have things that we manage, we juggle, we struggle through. And so I think the more and more that celebrities and public figures speak about it will normalize it for those everyday people in the world that are also having these challenges but showing up. We all show up to work, we show up to school with our mask on sometimes. And so I think when they speak to it, it really lends to other people feeling like I can take the mask off and I can really deal with what's going on in my life.
Jacob, similar question. When it comes down to the public figures and even your celebrity peers, how do you have those conversations with them to encourage them to also participate in taking care of their mental health and seeking out services?
Absolutely. I think it's so important because we hear about a lot of actors who commit suicide, who are very depressed, who do millions of dollars at box office and viewership on TV, but you know, from the outside looking in, we say, oh man, what do they have to be depressed about? Each other because we're all walking out of the house, putting on our smiles, putting on our attitudes to go out into the day and be our best selves. And we're all sort of kind of covering up something that we don't want to completely share with the world. So we need to create environments that make us all feel safe to just kind of be vulnerable and say what we're really going through in order to keep going and in order to keep pushing, because what isn't transformed is transferred, and that'll show in our kids, that'll show in our grandchildren. We have to think about the future of our people.
That was great, Jacob. Thank you. It is indeed, you know, as the everyday people, we sometimes can think like, what could they possibly have going on that's bothering them, you know, from the outside looking in. But everybody deals with something, right? We're all at maybe perhaps different levels, but we all have our different issues. And so with that said, I want to take it to Ari and also to Willow and Jada. What do you all think the impact will be on your generation and generations to come, the more openly and honestly people are having these type of dialogues and conversations? Let's send it to you, Ari.
I definitely think that with the further generations that are coming with me and after me, if we start having these conversations where we can start, like you said, breaking down the stigmatization of mental health as like, oh, this bad thing, we don't talk about it, you know, keep it under wraps. I think the more we have these conversations, we can really open up about it. Once you get it out, you know, it's a lot easier to talk about it once everybody's talking about it versus just one person, versus starting the conversation versus joining the conversation. So I think if we can start these conversations and keep them going, I think that the generation will progress.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ari. Jada, how about you?
Revolutionary. I think that's the simplest way to put it. My father, I think I was about 13 years old when I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I think I'm depressed. And he was like, we ain't depressed. We don't go through that. You could come and talk to me. And I was like, but I talk to you every day and that's not helping. That don't work. But when I would talk to my mom about it, and my mom was like, I'm depressed too. first of all, that provided me a safe space. That provided me somebody who seen me. I felt seen in that moment. When you're depressed or going through any other mental health issue, sometimes it's very easy to feel lonely, to be trapped in your own mind. I tell people all the time, I feel like I'm at war with my own brain. But to have somebody there again who has a similar experience for me, that just made me feel safer. And then I have younger siblings. I'm the oldest of 8. And my little sister was talking about, oh, I'm not feeling well, and I haven't been feeling well for a while. So for me to be able to openly say it, like for my mom, I was kind of the open door. All right, well, I got that too, so let's talk about it. But for her, she will never know what it feels like to have an adult who's like, we don't talk about those things. Come talk about those things. Let's have these conversations. I think that it'll make them bolder, smarter, make wiser decisions, and just change the trajectory of our country as a whole.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jada. Now, I do have a follow-up question for you, but I want to get to Willow.
Go ahead.
As well.
So I feel like a lot of people really look up to celebrities. And in this day and age, it's not even just celebrities anymore. Now we have influencers, and we have people who are literally creating lives just for social media. And it's really unrealistic, and it's setting these unrealistic expectations for everybody who's watching them. So I feel like, celebrities really normalizing being human and sharing their own mental health experiences and just sharing their journey and what they've been through. I think it could really help, like we say, break the stigma and really just encourage people to take charge and take control of their own mental health. And I think also it could provide us with, better access to resources. A lot of celebrities have partnership deals and things like that. So I feel like if we move that into a positive aspect, it could really help our generation.
Thank you, Willow. I appreciate that. I love the bringing the human piece back to it, right? And so, Jada, you said something that was pretty relevant or stuck out to me when you said, like, having an adult to come to you and say, like, regarding talk to me about it, right? So at the Boys and Girls Club, we provide critical mental health support to kids and teens across the country. And so as a staff member of the Boys and Girls Club, what are some of the most effective strategies your club uses to prioritize and address mental health and well-being among your members?
Oh, that's a great question. This might be a little lengthy. Cut me if I'm talking too long. I'm a Boys and Girls Club kid. I'm from Milwaukee. Jacob Lattimore actually performed at my Boys and Girls Club in 2010 when I was a kid. So this is full circle. This is very full circle. But with my experience as a Boys and Girls Club kid, me now as a staff, it allows me to look back on who I was as a kid and be the adult that I wish that I had in my life, for one. So to have adults who are open and honest and trauma-informed and are practicing social emotional wellness and learning, having those just in the space visible makes a profound impact. All of what I do is relationship building. I talk to my kids the way that I talk to my kids because, sorry, that just scared me. I talk to them the way that I talk to them because I want them to know that I'm not just a staff member here. I'm somebody that cares about you. I'm here for you. So let's have those real conversations. Our site specifically at Promise Southwest Boys and Girls Club is a mayor-led initiative to reduce crime amongst teens in inner city Atlanta. So we work in the SWATs. We are in partnership with multiple organizations such as Chris 180, who provides free therapeutic services to all of our members so they can get family counseling, individual counseling, group counseling, and everything else under the sun. So I said all that to say we have adults who informally do that every day, showing up, being there, being visible, being transparent, and then we have those professionals who are in the space and destigmatizing it every single day.
Thank you so much.
Sorry if that was windy.
It was not windy at all, because you said, again, something key there with being the person that you wish you had, right? And so with that, Rachel, this is coming to you. When identifying when someone is struggling with anxiety or depression can be difficult. As Jacob even was mentioning, as celebrities, you can wear masks at any given time, especially if you're an actor, right? That's what you do for a living. That's how you make your employment and money. So what would be some common signs as someone who might be struggling with anxiety or depression? What are some common signs for us to recognize, and how can peers and adults best support them?
Yeah, I think as a mom of teens, I think that sometimes it can just be difficult to pinpoint when someone's struggling or young people are struggling with anxiety or depression. And just because teens are not always as open with their feelings and emotions. And so one thing to definitely just be on the lookout for is any significant behavioral changes or physical changes that you may see. So if you're seeing your young person that they may be sleeping a lot more or not sleeping enough, or oversleeping, then that may be a sign. If you see changes in appetite, whether that's loss of appetite, overeating, that may also be another sign. Signs like if they're expressing that they're having headaches, stomach aches, but there's no underlying health diagnoses or condition, that may also be a sign. I think also just seeing how they socialize. If you find that your young person is now starting to withdraw from things that they once enjoyed, starting to withdraw from family, from friends, from activities, that may be also a sign. Again, talking to young people is where you start. I don't suggest that anybody just goes around like, oh my God, London has started not talking to me. I think he's depressed. We always want to draw that conversation. I would check in and say, hey, London, I noticed, these things are happening. What's going on with you? You want to talk? So creating that safe space where young people feel they can come and share what's going on with them, and hopefully they will begin to say what's going on so we can provide that support. But just creating that safe space for people to listen to. And then when you identify that there's a need for some clinical or professional supports, referring them out to those services. Just like Jada said, clubs do very well. Some things we have in-house, some things we refer out with our community partners. But yeah, that's where I would start.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to take this question to the youngest panel members on the stage here with us today. So Ari and Willow, let's talk about when you notice some signs in your peers, right, and even some adults, right, in your lives, how do you have that conversation? What do you say to them? How do you approach them to make sure that they are all right?
Do you want me to take it first?
I can go first. I feel like this is a difficult question because a lot of times the symptoms of anxiety or depression can present themselves in more subtle ways. I feel like it's really hard. Really, the only thing you can do is, reach out to the people you love and check in with them and make sure that they're okay. Because a lot of times you would never know that somebody's struggling unless you ask. A lot of times we see in the most happiest people are the ones who are struggling. I know in my personal experiences, like when I'm struggling with my anxiety or my depression, like I get really fidgety, I get very irritable, I'm very tired all the time. So I think those are things, especially like behavioral changes, that's a big thing like she said. But honestly, the biggest advice I can give is just be there for them, be somebody, provide them with a safe space, be understanding, be patient with them. A lot of times, all you really need to know is that you're not alone, and that's the biggest thing that can really help.
Thank you, Willow. Ari, I'm going to remix your question just a bit. So with that, and you being the youngest on the panel, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are that teens are facing and experiencing when it comes to mental health, and how can organizations like Boys and Girls Club support them?
That's a loaded question. I think one of the biggest challenges that people my age face today, especially me because coming once again out of school, it's a big transition from everything to now you're in university or college or a job, whatever you're doing after high school. It's a really big switch because you feel like there's nobody there, but there are. Organizations like the Boys and Girls Club really helped me. Even while I was still in school, there was a time period where I was really reserved, really quiet, like quiet kid in the corner almost. And my club directors they approached me subtly and I ignored them, which was my fault, but they pushed me a lot, and I think that was definitely something that helped me out a lot. They pushed me to do things like KKCC, Youth of the Year, art clubs, oratorical, things that I use in my everyday life to this day. And I think organizations like the Boys and Girls Club definitely help with that, because that push is really what you need to sometimes get out, instead of the direct question of, are you okay? You need the push from your support system.
I love that. And your answer too makes me think back to something Rachel said earlier around like even just getting outside and getting into nature, going for a walk, going for a hike. If your friend, family member, whoever it may be, your support system, if it seems like they might be down, like, hey, let's go for a walk and talk. That might change some things for them. So thank you, Ari. Now, when addressing mental health, it requires both prevention efforts like building coping skills and interventions like counseling, right, which we've been discussing. So what preventative measures can teens take to protect their mental well-being, Rachel?
Yeah, I think again, just making sure that you have those coping strategies that work best for you, knowing when to tap in and tap out. Social media is a beast. It comes with its benefits, it comes with its challenges, but sometimes when you're on social media a lot, you can get flooded with all these negative content. And so just making sure that you're aware of what you need in that space and taking a social media break. As an adult, I take social media breaks even when I use social media for work or for my personal life, but there are moments I'm like, okay, this is a little too much going on in the world. I need to disconnect. And so I think just being self-aware. Also for young people, especially for teens, it's important to make sure your physical health is totally optimal and in line. So getting exercise in, eating a healthy diet, getting enough sleep, all those things can ultimately impact your mental health if they are not intact. And so just being diligent about doing that as well. And then when you need help, finding your safe person. Find that person you trust, whether that's a parent, whether that's a trusted adult, whether that's someone in a club, a mentor, finding that space and that person that you can share what's going on in your life.
Thank you, Rachel. Jacob, I want to send you a question too, and it's based off of something that you said earlier when it came to, I believe you said survivor's guilt. And so, you know, some of us, we come from different communities where we make it, right? And of course, again, at varying levels, we make it out, and we're successful in our lives, and we feel a little bit guilty because our siblings may not be as successful, or the friends that we grew up with may not be, or they're still in their hometowns, or maybe not just doing well. How do you, what tactics do you put into place, or what coping strategies do you have for that, so where you're not feeling it as heavy about it or having any regret for your journey?
Yeah, you know, it's still difficult today. I'm not gonna lie, like it's something I still think about on a daily. I always try to think about ways I can help in a way that won't drain me, but it'll fill me up for the day, to be like, hey, I did everything I could, and being at peace with that. That has helped me mentally tremendously. Because when I look back on my years of my life, there's so many places I was putting energy towards someone else's dreams or someone else's problems, and then it took me off my course, and that's not where I think God wants us all to be. I think everybody has to go through their personal journey. Like it's a must, because sometimes you can be messing up God's plan for someone else by helping too much, and I've realized that. So I've always tried to help in a way that plants a seed, plants an idea, and then get back to myself and get back to my safe space, my isolation, and just knowing that I did everything I could to help. And it's still a struggle every day. You know, I wish I could bring everybody with me. I wish I could have all my family and friends in some of the rooms I walk into, but that's just not the case. And that's okay. And that's okay. We have to be at peace with that. That's the part where it's always hard. It's always hard to be at peace with God's journey for your life, you know, and it's not meant for everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. And so I want to also ask an additional question of you, Jada. So we're talking about isolation, we're talking about mental health, and I know that, as you mentioned, you're from Milwaukee, right? But you're here in Atlanta now. And so making moves like that, somewhat across country, is not the most easy or filled with joy, good times. So can you share with those who may be thinking about leaving their hometowns but unsure because it's like, I'm leaving my family and friends behind, maybe even experience survivor's remorse behind that too, right? How did you cope with that and deal with that as far as making that move from your hometown to a new major city at that?
Well, I'm still coping to begin. Milwaukee is home. It's all I know. It's where I was born and raised. It's where all my family is. So this was a move that I never seen done in my family before. This was new for me. But I knew that being in Milwaukee was going to be detrimental to where I wanted to be in life, for one. Not because of the city of Milwaukee, but just because of the circumstances in my family, in my hometown, in my environment, in my neighborhood. And I needed to make a decision that best suited Jada. So at the time, I didn't know what that looked like, but I told my mom, I need to make a big girl decision. And my big girl decision was to move back to Washington, D.C., which is ridiculously expensive, or to find somewhere else I can flourish and to find out who I was. So true story, I applied for a Boys and Girls Club position down here. The director ended up being from Milwaukee as well, so I got the position off that. She said, I need you in 3 weeks. And I told my mama, I'm moving to Atlanta in 3 weeks. And I didn't know what that looked like. I applied for an apartment, I had a job, I went to the dealership and got me a car when I first got down here. Listen, I just was trying to make it happen, but I had more examples in my life of what not to be, so that pushed me to take a completely different route. So what I would say is, first of all, just do it. You will sit stuck trying to decide on when is the best moment and how am I gonna do it and how am I gonna make it work? And what my mama always said is all you need is a mustard seed of faith. a mustard seed of faith. And God is gonna provide, and he's gonna make that happen. And that's what I did. I'm still figuring it out. I just called my granny last week and was like, I'm finna move home. Because home is comfortable for me, but it changed my life. This was the best decision I ever could have made. It put me in this room where I'm at right now, around amazing people, interacting with the kids, changing lives. So do what is best for you in spite of what everybody else may want you to do, may think you should do, may feel is right for you. You make that decision for you and pursue it. That's it.
Can we clap it up? Jada took us to church on a Saturday, so I appreciate you, Jada. But yes, indeed, the highlight from there is definitely you have to make it happen, but most importantly, do what's best for you. So I hope everyone in the audience took note of that, and those who are viewing and tuned in right now. So I believe right now we have an opportunity for some Q&A from the audience. Do we have a mic for the audience member, someone prepared for a question for whether the panelists who are here in person or for Jacob who's joining us remotely? Looks like right here. All right, Mike's coming to you. One moment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it goes with it because I'm a psych nurse. I'm a nurse as well. So one thing that I do, I've had it where I talk to veterans, and I'm a veteran myself, and I want them to talk, and we don't talk. So one veteran said, "You say something first," so I really had to lead by example. And so what I do is when I do all my classes, okay, what I do is when I do hold my classes, I make sure that I say, look around you. These are the people that can help you when you're in the situation because they're going through it. And it's hard for people that's going through mental health to talk to somebody that never went through anything, and they done went to college, got all their degrees. They can't relate to them, but the ones that's in there with them, they've been going through it. And so I say, make sure you know these people, get their numbers, exchange numbers, so when you're going through these things, it's easy to listen to someone that help you show you, like, this is where I've been, this is how I got through it. And that really makes a real big difference as far as your mental health. Is just going through the motions. You need more than just a person that just haven't just battled the scars. So I make sure that my patients know that, hey, I'm going through it too. I'm just as human as you are. And most of them think they're feeling like they're different than others. I say, different than anybody else that's walking on the street that's not in here. They just know how to deal with it better. So that's why we're here, so you can learn how to deal with it better so you don't have to be here.
Thank you. What was your name?
My name is Ricardo Ware.
Thank you, Ricardo, for being here and for your question and for your sharing as well. All right, so we're gonna keep things moving. Definitely want to even say what Ricardo was sharing regarding like being that human is, being relatable, sharing, being open, being authentically yourself is necessary that others will open up and be honest too as well, and not feel even alone or isolated as much. We have one more question from the audience.
Okay, so Ms. Jada, I know you mentioned a lot about comfort, and I think that that's something that especially as teens, like really just dive into. Like whenever we feel uncomfortable, we just go into our comfortable spaces. So as a teenager myself, what would be some advice that you would give me of pushing myself outside of my comfort zone?
That is a...
And your name was?
Kennedy.
Thank you, Kennedy. Great question.
I don't really know if I even too much know how to answer that. That's a great question. What I would say first is to spend these years of your life learning yourself. Learning what you do like, what you don't like, what you kind of like, what you don't really know if you like yet. And that'll give you a vision on at least what direction that you're about to head in. And when you know what direction you're about to head in, one of the things that I tell my kids all the time is the worst that somebody can say is no. So ask. When I put in, true story, when I put in my resume for the executive director position at the Boys and Girls Club, I didn't think I was gonna get it. I actually had no clue. My coworker said, one of my friends said, the position is open, you should apply. I said, okay. I applied and then I checked my email and I was like, hold on, they asking me to come in for an interview. So whatever you think you want to do in life or whatever direction you see yourself going in, just make I don't even, it's really no clear-cut answer, but you just got to make those bold steps. Whatever that, like if you're interested in acting, reach out to an acting school. You never know. The least they can say is, oh, no, we're not accepting somebody right now. If you're interested in journalism, find somebody who's a journalist and just talk to them. Tell them I have questions. Find your path, find yourself, find what you want to do, and just be safe. Follow your wildest dream, you know? I don't know, I hope that answered.
Can I add something? Oh, I just wanted to tell you that growth stems from discomfort. So just remember, when you're uncomfortable, you're growing. And even though it might be a hard journey, you're gonna come out better on the end of it.
Oh, she answered better than me.
Great answers all around.
And then I was just gonna say, Kennedy, girl, lean into that black girl magic you have.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's really about taking those little small steps. We see this big goal, this big thing we wanna do, and it's like all the anxiety and things build up to tell us not to do it or that we're not capable of doing it. So really just whatever it is that you set your mind onto that you want to step outside the box, start with baby steps. What is the first thing that I can do? Master that. What is the second thing I can do to reach this goal? And give yourself grace through the process. Also get you some dope friends that are risk takers. Look, because everybody in life is not a risk taker. And I edge on the side that's kind of safe. My husband is very radical and a risk taker, and so are my boys. So find you a network of people that will push you, support you, encourage you, and be there for you as you take those risks.
Can I add one last comment?
Go for it. And Jake, we might send it to you too. Go ahead, Jake.
I was told a while ago that the 5 people closest to you are a reflection of who you are. So your 5 friends around you, their net worth is your net worth. So when you surround yourself around people who, like she said, are making those moves and taking those boss steps, even if you're not ready yet, something in you gonna say, I see them eating. And I want to eat too. And I need to figure out how to eat. So surround yourself around people older, younger, different perspectives. That was a great tidbit.
Absolutely. And Jacob, yep, go ahead.
Just to add on, I think that y'all answers was really spot on. I feel like definitely growth is in the uncomfort. Acting was not something I was thinking about as a kid. I was all music. I was like, I'm gonna do music. I remember getting the script when I was about 8 years old for the Lion King play. And they were like, yeah, like they auditioned. I was like, nah, I ain't doing no audition. I ain't doing no acting stuff. Now look at me, like acting is spearheading my career, it's paying all my bills. I hated reading growing up. Like my mom would literally like make me read, and now I have to read to study scripts, to read with scene partners. So now I'm making some of my best friends through the work I'm in now. Like some of my best friends are actors and television producers, real estate investors. And those are the type of people I want to be around because I know that that's going to help me grow in my own life, and then it's also going to help me build my family when I'm ready. So it's that's what you want to do. You want to be in the uncomfortable places because the comfortable places will keep you stagnant, keep you where you are, and keep you depressed, keep you down. And you want to make sure you get in those spaces where you're going to uplift yourself, and you'll feel better about it after you just get over the huddle. The most blissful experiences are on the other side of fear. I promise.
Love that. Thank you, panelists.
We have one more question from online.
All right.
The question was from a parent for Rachel. Rachel, the question was, how do I navigate my teen as they are starting to transition and hormonal and all the things? How do you know what's the difference between mental health issues where we need to discuss that or just regular growing up and all the pains of life?
Ooh, teenage life. Yeah, as a mom and as a therapist that's, worked with teens and navigated raising teen boys, I think it's always about really tapping in and checking in with your young people. A lot of times, even remember myself as a teenager, we ebbed and flowed in our emotions. It depended on what happened at school, if a guy hurt my feelings, if I didn't make this sport or other things. And so I think it's one, building that relationship, that open, honest space where our kids feel comfortable talking to us, starting there, and just letting them know that it's okay to not be okay. Because I don't think we do that enough. And so for my children, I typically give them mental health days throughout the year, and I'm like, hey, you get 3 mental health days. I don't need to know why you need it. I just need to know that you're taking it. And so I think starting there as a parent is a space to get them to understand that, hey, I'm supporting your mental health journey. I'm supporting your mental well-being, and that you can come talk to me and you can take the space you need. And then also really listening to when kids say they need help. A lot of times as parents, we don't want to accept when our kids need help. When our kids are saying they're feeling suicidal, we're like, oh, well, maybe you just heard that, or maybe somebody at your school said that. This can't be my child. And so there's this thing as parents, we want our kids to have beautiful, wonderful, amazing futures. We don't want them to go through challenges in life, but that's very unrealistic. And so sometimes as parents, we try to talk ourselves out of what our children are going through. So really leaning in and listening to what they say they need when they need it and getting them the supports that they need.
All right. Thank you for that question online as well. All right, well, let's clap it up for this incredible panel, both in person and online. Jacob, thank you for being here. Y'all have been incredible, and it's certainly been a great conversation, and certainly full. I've made my own mental notes on this mental health. It's something you said, Rachel. I'm like, the 3 mental health days. I wish my mom had gave me that as a teen. Like, my God, who would I be today if I had it? You are a dope mom with all the vibes, for sure. But remember, taking care of your mental health is just as important as your physical health. So if you or someone you know needs support, please reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or use the resources available. I do have some that I'd like to list out right now. So there is a crisis text line. Feel free to text 741-741. Again, that's 741-741. There's also a suicide and crisis line. You would put in 988, again, 988. And just another huge thank you to our dedicated sponsor, Kohl's, whose commitment to mental health and well-being makes events like this possible for today's young people and even future generations as well. So thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and y'all have a wonderful, dope day. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank y'all for having me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I'll make it up when I get back home, I promise.
We appreciate it. Feel better, man. Have a great one.
Thank you, thank you.
Until next time.
And so I just want to say, since we're in Atlanta, you know, I'm from Atlanta. I'm from Camilton Road. From the SWAT, she ain't seen.
That's my club.
You know what I'm saying?
Sean, can I ask you a question too,
yeah.
since you brought up that you're from Atlanta, from SWAT, Atlanta?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we were talking about mental health today. How do you prioritize your mental health? Like, what things do you do for yourself?
It's so interesting that you say that. Mental health is so important. I have 2 boys and a girlfriend. And just trying to balance every day is really about taking it serious, like taking your life serious. So what I like to do sometimes, I take a little bit of, I've learned as getting older, I just take a little time for myself, you know what I'm saying? I do things like, I get facials, or I may go and I might go swim. I get massages. Um, Therapy, just communicating, talking about your issues, talking about things that really, because, I lost my mom like in '02. And so that's been a big loss in my life. But at the same time, it was also a healing in my life too, you know what I'm saying? It's like every day, it's almost kind of like, I take my losses as my gains, right? And so my loss is my strength, right? And it's like, I get a chance to, sort of like, the great thing about a memory is like you get a chance to play that memory back over and over and over and over again in your mind and in your heart, and it's like you pay attention more to like, okay, I remember my mom being there for me all my entire life, and she said so many different things to me. So I just kind of play those things back in my mind of like strength. I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as a positive thing. And I think, I try to tell people your perspective is your perspective, which has so much to do with how you think. You can look at something positively or you can look at something negatively, And so I just always choose to look at everything in a positive light, right? As a help. I don't look at things as a hurt, right? And it's really a choice. And like it's a choice that you make. It's like some people ask me, "You're still doing music?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's just what I do. Like that's my life, right?" And so I try to give love in my music. I try to I'm putting out my new album next month, and I'm really really excited about it.
We are too.
And it's really good. It's really good, by the way. And I got so many great features on it. And it's about love. It's about life. It's about being vulnerable as a man. You know what I'm saying? Talking about love and your hurt. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's okay to say I'm hurt. It's okay to say, man, you really that broke my heart. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to say those things because it's therapy. It's a way of being able to. That's why I love music so much because it's just like a way of expressing yourself. And everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be appreciated. Everybody wants to just share their hurt, share their pain, share their idea. And life is an idea. As for you younger people, don't be afraid to dream.
That's what I wanted to actually do one more follow-up question for you with Sean. So when you think about the dreams, right, and like a monumental loss of like losing a parent, you mentioned you lost your mom in '02. The hits that you have named and put out to the world for us all to enjoy came after that. I know they came after. I remember where I was when I heard a lot of the songs. I would be in the club, but nonetheless, what would you say? What advice would you give to those who are right here in this room, young people, teens, adults, more seasoned people? What advice would you give to them for them to keep pushing when it is hard and when they do experience that hurt and even heartbreak?
I mean, that was the result of my hurt, y'all. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I had 2 choices. I could just quit, or I could just keep going, right? And I put all of my hurt. I know my mom wouldn't want me to. She wouldn't have wanted me to quit, right? And she would just had that conversation with me. Like it would have been, it would be, now you know better. Like, I didn't teach you all, I didn't help you get here, bring you this far to like, for you to quit on yourself, you know what I'm saying? And it's like sharing your heart with the world. Like people have no idea how gratifying it is to share yourself with the world, right? It's like people's like, hey man, why you didn't keep that song for yourself? Why you didn't keep Yeah for yourself? It wasn't for me. You know, I'm a vessel, you know what I'm saying? I'm a vessel, and I'm a person that was put on this earth to give to other people and to share. Like when I do songs for people, especially like a lot of those songs I did for women were to empower women. And it was to empower women to a point where they could be on the same level from all the frequencies in music that competed with the opposition, which would probably be men, right? But and just because I was inspired by my mom, you know what I'm saying? Like my dad always gets the he always gets the short end of the stick.
Most do.
But my daddy is my hero too. But my dad was in the military, and like he was such a great he was such a great inspiration as well. But my mom was like a person I could talk to about anything, and she would be on me at times to the point where I felt inspired. Like I never got low because my mom would never let me get low. You know what I'm saying? She would always be on. You made your bed. You what? You clean the bathroom. You wash the dishes. And I had to do that before I went to school every day. But she was at every one of my games. She was, and I played sports. Sports is a really good thing that helped me too, because I was a really great athlete. I was really great at baseball. Like I could have went pro baseball, but I love music more. But and I love music more because I could give more to more people. You know what I'm saying? And I could sort of talk to people and understand people too. That's another thing I get more from music. Like it's almost like a computer. I get it from the artist first. You know what I'm saying? So I get their story, and I find out, hey, like, what are you going through? How do you feel? What was your last plight? What was the last failure, right? I look at failures first, you know what I'm saying? Okay, what was the fail? And I try to fix the fail, right? And that's just the whole idea about it. It's just about getting better. It's just about getting better. It's not about looking at life like it's going to end. It's about looking at life and understanding that it can be as great as you want it to be. It could be it's just as wonderful as your dreams can be, right? And so my idea in life is just like, man, life is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful idea, right? And your ideas are just as positive and as they can be negative. So to keep going, she just instilled that thing of me to just keep going. Like, and it's just, and I feel like when you accomplish one thing, it just takes that one little accomplishment that lets you know, man, because I remember when I did and to Usher's defense, I love him. That's my brother, but he didn't really like that song. But I went through, excuse my French, but hell and high water to get him to record the song, right? But as you can see now, 20 years later, it's the biggest song of his life. It's like the number 11 song on the greatest hits of all time, Hot 100 list, right? But if I didn't dream, if I didn't believe, if I didn't just stay diligent in my plight to take what God gave me and to pass it on to my brother, to pass it on to the world, man, it would have never happened, right? And that was just the idea. It was an idea, y'all. It was just an idea. And that idea turned into something. I get texts and emails all the time. People be in like Australia, they'll be in New Zealand, they'll be in Japan. They'll be like, hey, they're playing your song. 15 years later, 10 years later, 12 years later. And it's just so inspiring, right? And Usher's life, like, look at Usher. You know what I'm saying? And he's our brother. You know what I'm saying? And he's one of the greatest entertainers ever.
Can I ask you another quick question too, Sean? Speaking of Usher, as a club alum himself, we're celebrating BGC Week and 150 plus years in this game with an idea that three women had for Boys and Girls Club, ultimately became Boys and Girls Club. What's been your connection to the Boys and Girls Club movement?
Funny that you ask. The Boys and the Girls Club, I went to Boys and Girls Club when I was like 5. I moved to Europe when I was like 6, 5 turning 6. But my mom sent me to the Boys and the Girls, to the Boys Club. And I must say, I'm trying to think what street it was on. I forget what street it was on, but it was in Swats in Southwest Atlanta. I learned so much from the Boys Club because when I got there, it was like these little boys was rough. Like it was like I.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I you know, they used to call me Muscle Man when I was little, like when I was a little kid, because you know I had a few little muscles and stuff, but it's so funny. I thought I had some muscles till I got in there and I started seeing these little guys walk around. And you know, they had those little, they would have different little sections in the Boys Club. Like they had this like this cage sort of like wrestling little place. You know what I'm saying? And boy, them boys was wild in there. But you know, it made me so much better because it really upped my strength, right? My strength, my mental strength. Just getting in the, you know, even though it was rough, even though it was a little rough, it made me become a little rougher. It made me a little tougher. It made me a little stronger. It inspired me more. You know what I'm saying? And my mom, I was like, I don't know why my mom would let me come over here, because if she saw if she saw these boys here, like, Mom, I don't know, this, you know, them boys is rough. I remember a couple times I came home, I was crying, but it taught me strength, mental strength, you know, and mental strength is so important, you know, especially for your kids, you know, and so how the Boys and Girls Club really, it was a big inspiration to me because it taught me that I couldn't run. I had to face my fears, right? And I'm telling you, I just really been blessed because all of my experiences in life is what really made me a stronger person. You know, don't be afraid of experiences because those experiences are very important for your kids to see. Right? You know, if it's not going to kill them, sometimes it's okay to put them in that ring. Because they got to learn how to get themselves out of there. Get themselves out of there. You can't always save them all the time, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm just really thankful, man, for life and people. That's why I always love people. And I didn't know until an hour ago I was supposed to come here. But it's Boys and Girls Club. I thought about that. It's very important because it helped me, right? And all the young boys and girls in here, stay inspired, keep pushing, and don't worry about what people have to say because one day, I'm telling you, people used to make fun of my voice. They used to tell me, oh, you don't look like you sound. You're like a boxer. But people love my music all around the world. And they love my voice now. You know what I'm saying?
You get paid
Sean,
for your
thank you
voice.
so much for being here and helping us close out BGC Week with us. Definitely, I think the stories of resilience, even the fearlessness that you've experienced because the Boys and Girls Club really holds true to the whatever it takes when it comes to our organization. So thank you for joining us and being here. We appreciate you.
Sean, do you mind staying for a picture? Okay, awesome. So I'm going to invite all of our audience members to just kind of gather around here. We'll keep our panelists here, but Sean, if you want to come in the back, we'll take a quick photo.